everybody doing today? So my name is Florence, and how many people here like to eat? How many people get excited when they think about food? I do. What's your favorite food? Pasta, great. Bacon, nice. Chili, that's good stuff. Oh wow, yum. Wow, that's great. What's that? Oh, all good stuff. Yum.
Pizza.
Pizza. Scrambled eggs. Awesome. Alright, so today we are going to be talking about My Plate. So My Plate is a new initiative by the government, and it's a way for you to design your plate. If I could get each of y'all to take one of these. So what we're going to be focusing on today is to understand the importance of eating nutritiously. We're going to formulate strategies to assist in healthier eating. We're going to define whole grains. We're going to identify the food groups and understand how they fit into My Plate, and then define what empty calories are. So why is it important to eat healthy? Anybody? Yep, that's great. That's why I have her there. You can just leave them on the table, that's fine. So one of the things I came up with is growth and development. So how many of you all like to play sports, play outside, do well in school, all that good stuff? So when you eat healthier, you're going to be more likely to have the energy to do these things. It's going to help you to focus mentally and physically. So if you eat healthier, your body's going to have more energy, so you're able to compete in these sports, play outside, and do well in school. That way you can impress your parents and your teachers and your classmates. So like I said, for energy also. So what happens when you don't eat? What's that? Yeah, so you get tired. You get in a bad mood, right? So if you're eating the right things, you're going to be more energized, more likely to be able to do the things that you want to do. And like I think you said earlier, you get sick when you don't eat healthy, right?
Yeah.
So I know if you're like me, when I was growing up as a kid, I hated being sick because then you have to stay at home and miss school. You have to be in bed, and you can't go out and play with your friends. Then you have to go to the doctor, and I didn't like going to the doctor as a kid because it might give you a shot or like a throat culture, and then you have to get some yucky medicine, and you miss school too. So then, does anyone know what a disease is? Right. It's like a long-term sickness. So if you're not eating healthy, you get sick a lot, right? And when you get sick a lot, you're more likely to keep that sickness, that kind of thing. So if you keep that sickness, then it can potentially turn into a disease, which a disease is something that's going to affect you maybe mentally and physically. And you're not as likely to be able to get rid of it as like a sickness. So like a sickness might last a couple of days, whereas a disease is going to last a lot longer, and it might stick with you, and then you're going to have to go to the doctor even more and more. So no one likes that. It's also important so that you can maintain healthy weight. So if you're eating the right things, your body's going to know where to put those things, so you're less likely to be overweight. And if you're not overweight, then you're more likely to have energy to do the things that you can do. Like this girl down here, she's nice and strong. So if you're eating the right things, you can build muscles, build strong bones that are going to help you later on in your life, that kind of thing. And it boosts your self-esteem. Are y'all familiar with self-esteem? That's like how you feel about yourself. And And then the last thing I came up with was longevity. So it's going to help you to be able to live longer, maybe to live to your parents' or your grandparents' age. So if you're eating the right things, you're more likely to be able to live longer. And your quality of life is going to be better. So how can we eat healthy? Can anyone tell me? Anything you guys do to eat healthy? Right, yeah, that's great. Anybody else? So what I came up with is, I want to start with breakfast. How many people here like breakfast? Yeah, I do. If you're like me though, sometimes you wake up late and you miss breakfast. It's not a hard thing to do. So you can always grab something on the go. It doesn't have to be fast food. You know, an apple or an orange or a pear, something like that can be a fast food too. The reason breakfast is so important is when you go to sleep at night, your body is essentially in a fasting state. So it wants to hold on to all that food that you've eaten throughout the day. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but sometimes you don't, when you wake up, you don't wake up hungry. Y'all ever get that? You wake up not hungry? No. Well, that's because your body's trying to hold on to the foods that it had from the night before. And sometimes you wake up really hungry too. I mean, it just depends. But I like to think of it like fueling a car. So if you don't eat breakfast in the morning, you're going to be more like this guy. You're going to be pooped out, tired, not have energy to do the things that you want to do. Whereas if you eat breakfast, you're going to have more energy and perform better in school and your sports and all that kind of stuff. So what about lunch? Do you guys like to pack your lunch, or do you like to eat school food? Pack it? That's great. And the advantage of packing your lunch, whether you do it or your parents do it, is that you can figure out, you can decide what you want to put in your lunch. So, I mean, you can choose fruit. I have some fruits and vegetables and all kinds of models over there on the table. And at least that way you can just determine what you're eating. So you can pick fruits, vegetables, and all that kind of stuff. And it's not to say that you can't eat school food every once in a while, but maybe pack your lunch most of the time and then eat the food from school every once in a while. So like one of the keys to nutrition, which are y'all familiar with what nutrition is? Can anybody tell me? So it's basically just eating healthy foods so that you feel better, eating the right food. So if you're doing that, you're going to have more energy. And so what happens when you skip a meal?
You usually be hungry later.
Yep. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
So at least for me, a lot of times I know I can get tired, irritable. I get extremely hungry. And again, it's like fueling the car. So if you skip a meal, you're more likely to be like this guy and not have energy later on. And so what happens if you skip a meal? What happens next time you eat? Yeah. Anybody else? So I know if you're like me, I tend to pig out the next time I eat. So if you're really, really hungry, get ravenous, and you want to eat anything and everything in sight. So it's really important not to skip meals. Not to mention when you get ravenous and eat all these foods, it's going to affect your energy level, your mood too. Because what happens when you pig out? You get really full, right? And you feel miserable. And you're more likely to be tired and have no energy. And you're more likely to eat seconds. Who here likes to eat seconds at dinner time? Yeah, I do. Thing about eating seconds is a lot of times your body is full before you actually feel full. So a lot of times you don't want to eat until you're full. You want to eat until you're satisfied. And sometimes it's hard to know that if you eat really fast. Anyone in here a fast eater? I know I am. Yeah, so if you eat fast, you're more likely to eat more. And do you have a question?
I have a comment.
What's that?
Well, someone in my family told me that, before you get something else, wait 5 minutes, because if you wait 5 minutes, you might be able, you can tell if you're still hungry or not.
Exactly, that's great. That was what I was gonna say. I mean, because your body is kind of like, if you think of it like fueling a car, for example. So when you fuel a car and the car's off, you know, the tank doesn't read full until you turn the car back on. So your body's sort of the same way. You gotta let it sit, and then you can kind of determine if you really need to eat more, right? So then water. Who here likes to eat? I mean, drink water? I do. That's great. I know as a kid growing up, I didn't like water. I liked other stuff. The reason water is important is because a lot of times your body might think it's hungry, and it's really just thirsty. Sometimes it mistakes those two things for the same sensation. So you might have eaten something earlier on, and you're like, well, why is my body hungry? But if you drink a glass of water, or a couple glasses of water, and then wait, maybe you won't be hungry. So I mean, it's something you kind of just gotta determine. So it's good to stay hydrated. That way you don't feel hungry when you're actually not hungry. And then my favorite is eating from all the food groups. So who can tell me what the food groups are?
Dairy, grain.
You don't have to give me all of them. What about you?
Fruit, protein, vegetables, grains, fruit, dairy.
Right, nail them. So it's really important to eat from all those food groups. And that way your body can stay healthier. And you get all kinds of different vitamins, minerals, and nutrients from those different food groups. So today we're going to talk about the importance of eating from those 5 food groups and how you can do that. So who's here has heard of my plate or the food pyramid? What do you know about it?
My plate gives you like the percentage you should have of like each food group.
Right, yeah, exactly. Anybody else? So if you were to have to pick one of these two, which one would you probably pick? Like which one's easier? Which one would be easier for you to do if you were trying to eat that way?
Probably my plate.
Right, and why?
Because since we're kids, it kind of looks easier to understand in the pyramid.
Yeah. This thing is kind of complicated, and you have to keep up with a lot of different numbers, right? So I mean, you have to think about how many servings you've had of this already, and then count it up. You have to determine how many more you have left. Whereas my plate, if you just make your plate look like that every single meal, that's pretty easy, right? So, what do you guys notice about the plate? It is rainbow colored.
It has all the food groups.
Yep, that's great, yeah.
The food groups are different sizes.
Yes, they are. So that's a great point. So if you notice, half of the plate is fruits and vegetables, and the other half are grains and protein. And then you have dairy over here. So it's important to eat from all of these food groups every single meal if you're going to. And so how many people's plate looks like this at their meal? I know mine doesn't all the time. That's great. Awesome. That's really good. Now, how about these foods? Y'all like these?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Junk food. These are junk food, so do you know why they're considered junk food?
Because they're not good for you. No nutritional value.
That's a great point, yeah, no nutritional value. So, where would they fit in here?
The outside.
Nowhere.
Yeah, so
On the bottom of
Yeah, they're not on there. That's a good point. So that's because you want to eat these in moderation, like as little as possible. I mean, not to say you can't eat them at all, but
I kind of eat them usually after each meal. I don't really eat them a lot.
that's good. Yeah. So this is what we call empty calories, and that's because they have, like you said, no nutritional value, and they're usually high in fats and sugars. So they're not necessary. They're not going to give you that energy that you need.
It's okay to eat some candy, but not a lot. Like usually I eat 1 to 3 days. But I can eat any candy, but I usually eat 1 to 3 days.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, like I said, moderation. So everything in a little bit. Now here's some just general tips about the plate. So you want to fill half your plate with fruits and vegetables. The different colors are better because they give you different nutrients. And you want to make your grains whole grains. So what's a whole grain? A whole grain is something that has the full grain. So it has the endosperm, the bran, and the germ. So if you think about the difference between like white rice and brown rice has all of these things and it's going to give you more fiber, whereas white rice has been stripped away of all these things and just to give you the grain and not nearly as much fiber. And so you're probably thinking, well, how do you know if it's a whole grain? Well, you can look on the label, and a lot of times they'll have this on there, or you can look for under the ingredients list, key ingredients, so like wheat or oats, or rye, barley, whole wheat pasta, that kind of thing. And then you're going to want to eat low-fat products. So that's going to be dairy that's 1%, 2%, not like whole milk, that kind of thing. And then lean proteins. So these are like fish, chicken breast, steaks, anything that has less fat. So even proteins are even seeds, nuts, and peanuts, that kind of thing. So those also count as protein. And then drink water or milk. So instead of like Capri Suns, high C punch, sodas, and all that stuff, it's better to drink 100% whole fruit juice or water or milk. So these are just some phrases that can help you to remember the things in my plate. So make half your grains whole grains. So who can tell me what some grains are? That's gonna be like bread, right? So that's gonna rice, yep. That's gonna be like whole wheat bread, rice, oats, whole wheat pasta, granola, that kind of thing. And then vary your veggies. So you're gonna want to eat different colored vegetables so that you get the different nutrients. So tomatoes, carrots, celery, potatoes, all that kind of stuff. And then focus on fruits. So that's going to be fruits, grapes, oranges, apples, pears.
My mom usually says that fruit is nature's candy because it has a lot of sugar
Yeah,
and it's also sweet.
that's great. That's very accurate right there.
One of those fruits is actually my favorite food.
What's that?
The pomegranate.
Oh wow, those are great. Those are really good. Bananas, those are good. Okay, and then calcium-rich dairy, so like we talked about earlier. And then go lean with your protein. That's another way you can remember that. And then rethink your drink. So water, cut out the sugar, fruit juice, milk, that kind of stuff. So these are just some meals that I came up with that have all the food groups in them. So now what I want you guys to do is I'm going to give you a plate. I'm going to have you draw out your own my plate. So y'all have markers. And then each of y'all can just take some of these. we're doing this just kind of to conclude the presentation. So we determined the importance of eating healthy and strategies to improve the diet. We identified food groups and how to eat healthier using MyPlate. And we find what empty calories are and determine they are not found on the MyPlate. And then we used MyPlate to brainstorm meal ideas. So.
Guys, put your number on the bottom of your plate because I'll collect those before you go out to jump rope. That way you can get your own plate back, okay? Thank you.